What's going on, everyone? It's LFC Transfer Room, and today we're doing the Premier League room, where we have a bit of a wider look at some of the Premier League games coming up this weekend and don't just focus on some of the Liverpool transfer news. Today I'm joined with Drew again, this week, Jay and Chedu. How are you doing today, Chedu?
Phenomenal. You know your day is good when you open Twitter and all you can see is Mo Salah leaving. You know it's gonna be a good day when that happens. So, doing pretty well.
Yeah, on that, Jay, it was a pretty. I saw your tweet. You said it was a pretty ominous press conference. Has it ruined your weekend?
It hasn't ruined it, mate, but it's made things quite clear as to where things are with contract negotiations. It sounds like he's been told take it or leave it, doesn't it?
Pretty much. And Drew, are you waking up to this breaking Salah contract news?
Yeah, I'm not as doom and gloom as some people are on Twitter. I think we're at that point where I feel comfortable with how FSG are progressing with the club, but of course it'd be terrible to lose Salah. But I'm also hoping that he, does a few more Pepsi commercials or something like that to get his revenue in, rather than try to
Might give him a share of shirts sales on his name or something.
I like that.
Something.
But there is some good news today, isn't there? The LFC Transfer Room Twitter account's back. I don't think it missed out on anything during the January transfer window from memory.
No.
So it's good that that's back online again now. So, make sure that you're back following that. You might struggle to find Bobby Firmino. He's got some breaking news on the Salah contract if you go on his Twitter account as well. But it's a weird weekend of Premier League matches. Obviously, we've got games tomorrow, games Sunday, but then we've also got some of the catch-up games. So we're going to try and cover quite a lot of games today. As always, we're going to ask for your score predictions, and we're going to ask for score predictions of people in the chat, and we're just going to go through some of the games. So I'm going to do it in a slightly weird reverse order, where we're going to start with Sunday and then finish on Liverpool. So the game on Monday, in fact, I think it's the game on Monday, isn't it? It's Crystal Palace against Man City. Now, Jay, surely Crystal Palace have got to put more of a defence than Man United did against this Man City team.
Oh, mate, I think Leeds would have done better than United the other day. That was, for a club of Man United to be that far behind, mate, is just pleasing as a Liverpool fan. But Palace are City's little bogey team, aren't they? They used to be ours, but it looks like they've picked Man City instead. So I'm hoping they can give us a little shock, mate.
Yeah, and they've not been in bad form, Crystal Palace, recently, have they? They've won one, lost one, drawn one. So, Patrick Vieira masterclass is part of the Man City family, isn't he, Chedu? So, he might have a bit of an insight into Pep's ways.
I'd say don't sleep on Crystal Palace. Over the years it has been. They haven't been the greatest club of all time, but you look at some of the players they have right now: Edouard, Gallagher, Saha. When he turns up, we know how good he can be. People screaming outside my house, always great. But essentially, I think when Patrick Vieira came in, a lot of people really doubted what was going to happen with Crystal Palace, because not really a proven manager taking on a team that you looked at it at the start of the season and they seemed destined for relegation. And I think he's really done better than a lot of people thought he would. And some of the new signings have been quite good on their own. So I'd say don't sleep on them, but at the same time, don't expect too much from them either.
Patrick Vieira is doing an excellent job, and I think it's quite difficult, isn't it, Drew? Your manager comes in, changes an entire team's style of play. It tends to either go one of two ways, doesn't it? Either drops off a cliff, or suddenly it's everything that they've been crying out for. And with Crystal Palace, it seems to be everything that they've been crying out for. Not that Roy Hodgson was a bad manager, I should say.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited with Patrick Vieira. I think that he, bringing in someone who makes that much change to see the identity of the team form this quickly is very exciting. I think it's unrealistic to expect a new manager to come into a team like Crystal Palace and ultimately have them fighting for like Europe in one season. But like the groundwork's there, you can see the project that he's building, and I'm just hoping Agent Benteke finally, comes through for us for once and bags a couple goals.
He has been a deep sleeper cell, hasn't he, for a long time? So go on then, Drew. I'll start with you. Score predictions for the Man City Crystal Palace game.
I'm going to go for a draw, 1-1.
Chedu?
I hope deep down. Yeah. I'm going to say 1-0 to Crystal Palace because I'm a little bit of an optimistic person.
Palace,
I think I'm gonna say Gallagher is gonna want to score to, at least be happy about something with everything that Chelsea is going through right now. So I'm gonna say Gallagher is just gonna score.
And Jay, how do you think?
I really like that Gallagher. He's a good player, isn't he? Cheeky 2-2.
He might be available for cheap, seeing as Chelsea are on the
When Everton went for Dele Alli, I thought you should have been all over that Gallagher. Now you've got the Frank Lampard link. Even if it meant getting him in summer, I'd have threw that Dele Alli money straight at them for Gallagher, mate.
Yeah. He looks to be a great player, and there could very well be a mass exodus of Chelsea players. He's sort of one of those where I think one of the top teams will probably pick him up and just integrate him in over a period of time because he looks to be something quite special to me as well.
Oh, mate, he just runs everywhere. He's everywhere on the pitch. I really like him. I think he's going to be a top player, mate.
Okay, so no one go for a Man City win. You can see that LFC transfer predictions are not biased in the slightest. Well, moving on to what I think will probably be quite a good game. Arsenal against Leicester. Arsenal are at home. 1-4 and drawn 1. Leicester, however, are still in that slight stumble of form. They've lost 2, drawn 1. Chedu, let's start with you. How do you see this one going down?
Honestly, anyone could look at streams from last season, streams from the season started. I have always said, do not sleep on this Arsenal team. Yes, they were a little bit, not a little bit, they were bad
the blocks,
a while ago. But hey, Arteta seems to have gotten control over the team now. They're sitting, I think, 4th right now with like 3 games in hand. Smith Rowe, Saka, Odegaard, they're all looking phenomenal nowadays. And honestly, I don't know. I think there's something in that Leicester team that just takes away all their determination to win. So wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal end up beating them. I fully expect it, and honestly, I'm happy that they're doing well. I think it's been a long time coming for them, and they're finally finding their footing. And I think it's going to be definitely not an easy win, but I think they're going to scrape the win.
So what score are you going for? Arsenal 7-0?
You know what? Maybe. I'll say 2-1. 2-1 to Arsenal.
And Jay, is it just that Leicester are having a bad season and just can't seem to get things syncing together? Is this more of a blip season for Leicester, or is it now that some of the older players are just starting to hit that decline where they're going to start this natural drop?
No, I think it's not as bad a situation as we had last season, but they're missing a lot of key players. Fofana's been out the whole season. He's the best centre-half you've got. And I think that's had an effect on Sancho next to him because he hasn't had them. Vardy's been out for a lot of the season. James Justin, the wing-back, I think he was brilliant before he had his big injury as well. So I think they haven't been able to get rid of him, and that's what's affected them, to be honest. Maddison's in and out all the time with little knocks here and there, but these are their most important players, so I wouldn't worry too much as a Leicester fan. I think they'll be all right next season.
And what do you think about the Arsenal game?
Vardy's back, innit? But Arsenal are flying at the minute. I'll probably go Arsenal 2-1.
And is this I think I asked you this last week as well, Drew, and it's just another example. Arsenal have done it again. They're pretty strong in this top four position now, aren't they? They look to have one hand, I'd say, on that top four trophy, because it is Arsenal. It's their top four trophy. Do you see anyone getting past Arsenal, Drew?
I hope so. I really don't like Arsenal, but I have to respect.
Do you want Man United to get it?
No, I'm hoping Tottenham. I think that would be hilarious if Tottenham somehow pulled it off. But I have to throw respect at Arteta for what he's done with the squad. I think he came into a situation that was just an utter turmoil. It was a mess, and the fact that he's somehow pulled it together and has started to put his identity on the squad and actually looks. They're getting to attractive football again. They got young talent. It's an exciting project now. Whereas I was questioning if he had the presence or the experience to really take on that job. So I have to give him respect for that. But it is also Arsenal we're talking about, and they're not shy of bottling it at the last stages. So that's what I'm hoping for. But at this point, with as Chedu said, 3 games in hand. It's hard to see them even dropping the ball at this point. But I'm going to throw out a 2-1 for Leicester just to keep the top four race interesting. Even though I'd side with what Jay and Chedu went for.
Yeah, it's starting to seem ominous for Arsenal. I think 28 and 28, Man U, West Ham. Arsenal have played 25, 48, 4 wins on the bounce. They're on a good run of form, but like you said, Drew, it's Arsenal, so they could fall apart at any moment, and especially during the business end of the season. So I don't know, Jay. Can you see anyone else really getting the top 4 position? Is there a team that looks to be on form, not according to the form guide?
It's funny because the 3 teams who are going for 4th are all similar. They can't really be trusted. United can't be trusted. Arsenal are on a good little run now, but we've seen them do this before and then lose again. Tottenham are the same. Tottenham looked boss under Conte at first, and then they lost the 3 games famously, and he threw his toys out the pram, saying it's the worst players he's managed. Maybe it's the coach's problem. So I reckon it'll be dead interesting. It'll go to the wire. I think it's Arsenal's to lose, but I think all 3 of them teams, I wouldn't put my house on any of them putting a consistent run together. But with you mentioning Arteta there, I thought when Lampard got sacked, Arteta should have been sacked at the time. So you need to credit Arsenal's owners for sticking it out with him, because it's working. And he's had a lot longer than I thought he would have got when they went through that difficult period last season.
And honestly, that's like a showing to all Premier League club owners, and it's that they have to trust their managers to actually do something. Because we look at, for example, Spurs. I think Nuno was a brilliant choice for manager when it happened, and not even half a season later they sacked him. So, fair play to Arsenal's owners to actually give Arteta the time he needed, and now he's proving that he is the man for the job. And if they get Champions League, then that's all they've wanted for the last few years.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Chedu, right? In terms of a lot of these clubs get under pressure from players and from and they make this big change, and they never fix their culture because they don't let anyone stay long enough to build one. So it's really interesting to see, someone like Arsenal where, there's other fan channels who were calling for Arteta out really loud at the beginning of the season when they were bottom of the league, now suddenly believe him to be the second coming. And it just shows how short memory is in football.
Fickle.
Always. Right, next one. I think this is probably going to be the game of the weekend for me, just in terms of excitement, because I can't call it. West Ham against Villa. So Villa have been on a recent great run of form, haven't they? They've been tearing teams apart, but West Ham have also been very West Hammy in terms of the drawing a couple, the winning a couple, the lose one. So very solid, but not overly exciting. Drew, how do you see the West Ham Aston Villa game going?
I think at home the Hammers have the advantage. I don't think Aston Villa's had the best away record under Gerrard, but they are in really good flow at the moment. They've had a few key wins recently. They're playing well, so it won't be an easy game. And I don't know, West Ham are kind of still in the hunt for fourth. I don't know. They definitely want European places, so they still have to do the business. And yeah, I don't see this will be a huge test for that Aston Villa side. If they can go to West Ham and get a win, that's a huge marker for the rest of their season. But I don't think they'll do it. I think it'd be a draw at best for them, and I think West Ham will take it 2-1.
And Chedu, this Aston Villa front three: Coutinho, Ings, Ollie Watkins. Where do you rank it in the collective top threes across the Premier League?
On current form, we have to say that they're one of the best. You look at them, and on paper, you look at every single team's attack, and you're like, okay, they can't be that good. But we see Coutinho. Apparently, Coutinho can play everywhere except Spain, because anywhere he goes, he's just amazing.
He didn't do well in Italy.
No, he was terrible, wasn't he? Yeah.
That never happened. That was just a fluke.
He was a baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was a child. It doesn't matter. But we look at Coutinho now. I mean, 4 goals and 4 assists, if I'm correct there, something like that, which is phenomenal form for a player who hasn't had the best of luck recently. Ollie Watkins, I think, has been brilliant since he joined Aston Villa. And Danny Ings, we all know what he's capable of. As well as you look at other players like Ramsey or even Matty Cash, who has been playing phenomenal lately. He's scoring or giving assists every single game. And, you look at Aston Villa, which are a team that, after losing a player like Grealish, I can't pronounce his name, Jack. After losing a player like him, the captain, their star player, it really takes a toll on your team, and we could see how they had to sack their manager because of it. And I think Steven Gerrard was the perfect manager to go there. A manager that took Rangers on an unbeaten run. Plus, he needed that Premier League experience if he does want to be the Liverpool manager at some point. And he's proving everyone why he's a really, really good manager. And we see some of the transfer business. I mean, Coutinho. I think Luka Dean, even though he hasn't had the best start at Aston Villa, he's a phenomenal player. And you look at this Aston Villa side and you think that they actually have something really, really good going on. West Ham, on the other hand, I think everyone looked at last season and they thought, oh, it's just a fluke. It's just a one-off. But at the start of this season, we've seen what David Moyes can actually do with this team. And they're extremely talented. But as I don't remember who said it, I think it was you, James, that they're just now, recently it's just draw, the occasional loss. They're not really in that top form they were before, but they are feeling the pressure because they do want European football. And of course, being sixth with, again, Arsenal with 3 games in hand, if they really, really want it, they're going to have to start winning. And I think they know that. Obviously, I don't know if Bowen is back. I don't think so. No? Okay, yeah, that's a phenomenal loss for them. I know that I've been a Bowen hater for a long time, but he's a phenomenal player. I think no one can take away what he does to the West Ham team, and it's going to be a really, really big toll on them. But at the end of the day, I think it's gonna be a draw. West Ham are gonna go in very, very ambitious, and I think Gerrard has to keep proving that he has what it takes to be a top manager.
So, what score are you going on the draw then?
I'm gonna say 2-2.
Just now, I've got it in writing. One of the things that Helios put in the chat is Aston Villa either win or lose. So their away record is 6 wins and 8 losses with no draws. West Ham's home record is 7 wins, 3 draws, 4. So Chedu, you are predicting something that's not happened, but it's going to happen.
I think I make magic.
Jay, you'll remember this. Is West Ham just David Moyes Everton reborn? They've got a couple of good players. They're solid, but it's nothing exciting. Antonio's the new Duncan Ferguson. Bowen's the new Tim Cahill.
Mate, that's very insulting to Bowen and to Michael Antonio to compare him to Duncan Ferguson. I've had this out with Blues,
do a
right?
lot worse than Duncan Ferguson.
No, listen, I've done this, not even to trigger Evertonians. Not one Evertonian has been able to tell me why Duncan Ferguson's an Everton legend. For what? What goals? What's he done other than act like an hard knock on the pitch? He's not a great player by any stretch. He hasn't even scored 100 Premier League goals.
He beat up those home invaders, right? That's his legend.
Yeah, he did. He's a batter. Yeah, he battered an home invader, but makes you a legend for different reasons, not footballing. I know what you mean. It's a fair shout, but I think he massively overachieved with Everton, and I think he's doing the same at West Ham. Like, the job he's done there is unreal. I thought last season it'd be a one-off, but he's done exactly the same. Like, West Ham are used to fighting relegation. They've been challenging for the Champions League last season and this season. That turnaround's incredible. It's not like Moyes has been given 100 million to spend. He hasn't. I think he's done a brilliant job.
And how do you see this one going against Villa?
I actually see Villa winning. I think Villa will win because West Ham are going to have to go all out. I think they know top four is unlikely for them now because they've played the most games out of the others in front of them. So I think they might try and put all their eggs in one basket and beat Sevilla on the Thursday because they're at home, aren't they? So I fancy Villa to win 2-0. Because I think West Ham are going to focus on the Europa League because obviously if they win that, it's silverware and it's away in the Champions League. I think top four is going to be a bit much for them now.
I don't know, Chelsea could implode. I doubt it.
Yeah,
I mean, with the way things are going, well, you don't know what to expect.
Depends if they carry on, if they stop paying wages for me. Because obviously removal of sponsorship, critical wages and stuff like that, they might start.
I mean, it did come out that they're set to lose around 600K every single game due to not being able to sell tickets alone. So it is a little bit ropey for them right now.
So looking at, let's go to this game. Let's go to the Chelsea-Newcastle game. The former superpower and the new superpower. And I say former superpower because, everything's for sale, or everything would be for sale if it could be for sale, but it can't because it's locked up in a governmental box, unable to be sold, which is Chelsea's problem. And obviously Newcastle have more money than God. Jay, I mean, it's looking like a Chelsea win for the moment, but it's a way of things for the future, isn't it?
Well, apparently the bank accounts have been frozen, so if that's true, they can't pay wages.
There's special dispensation to pay wages.
Oh, so they can pay the wage, can they?
They can pay the wages, yes, but there's very little they can do. So they can't sell tickets, they can't sell shirts, they can't do anything that would make Roman money. But there's a special dispensation contract so that they can pay staff so that people can continue to earn from the club. But the club cannot continue to generate funds. It's mental.
So essentially they're losing money and not being able to bring any in. So it's a gigantic loss for them.
If only they had a billionaire owner, eh?
Right?
It's one of them. I'll be honest, I hate Chelsea, I do. They're only where they are because of Abramovich, but I can't help but feel sorry for the fans. And, it's football that's got nothing to do with the situation that's happening in Ukraine. And yeah, it's terrible, but it's not just Abramovich that you're making suffer here. It's not that I care for Chelsea fans, but I'm a football fan myself. If I thought about it happening to us, I'd be heartbroken, mate, if we were in a position where we couldn't go the game and couldn't sign players and just in this uncertainty, I can't imagine how horrible it must be for Chelsea fans.
It must be like finding the love of your life and then the government deporting her.
Yeah, it's like I say, mate, it's a horrible situation that I wouldn't wish on a football fan, to be honest, because obviously there's a lot of uncertainty around it. And
Chedu, how do you see this game going? Chelsea are at home. Everyone's in for free. No, I'm assuming it's season ticket holders.
Only season ticket holders. Yep.
But so it'll be quieter than normal. Hopefully they don't sing during the moment of support for Ukraine again. A Russian person's name, which was not the best move in Burnley. But how do you see the game going as opposed to the political elements?
Honestly, I generally think that Newcastle are going to win. Part of me thinks that the Chelsea players aren't in the right headspace right now with everything that's going on. And not only that, you look at Newcastle's recent form; they've been phenomenal. I don't know, listen, the signings they've made were brilliant. I mean, Bruno from Lyon, I think it was, phenomenal player, and I'm surprised. What a surprise that out of all teams, Newcastle were the only one that were actually in the running for him. He's been a phenomenal player in the French league for so long, and now he's running the Newcastle midfield like it's nothing. We look at Joelinton, who we all laughed at him ever since he arrived, but they moved him to midfield, and he looks like a completely different player. And everything seems to be going right for Newcastle. Exactly, they're the best in the league form-wise. And I don't see them dropping it against Chelsea. Yes, Chelsea are a tough team, but with everything that's going on, I don't think they're in the right headspace, the players or the manager himself. And again, it's not going to be a full stadium. So playing at their own home without having the entire fan base behind them, in front of them, cheering them on, it's really, really going to hurt them. And I think Newcastle know this. They know that they're in a really fragile spot, and they're going to want to take advantage of it. And honestly, Newcastle were in talks for relegation not that long ago. If they keep this up, they're going to be in a really, really good form. So I genuinely see them getting a win out of this.
Score?
How much do I want to make fun of Chelsea here? I'm going to say 3-1 Newcastle.
Say what, sorry? You jumped then.
3-1 Newcastle. That's what I'm going to say.
And Drew, if you were Rudiger or Christiansen, there's not going to be a contract on the table, is there? It's time to start seeking pastures new.
Yeah, I think they were both already on their way out the door, so I don't think this situation changes it much. But I'm gonna go with the opposite of what Chedu said. I think Chelsea, this is gonna motivate them. I think Tuchel came out, spoke really well after the last game, and I think that Chelsea players are gonna want to show it to their fans, and that they're still there, they're still fighting. And I think it will be interesting more on away games because I know they're only allocated, I think, 20,000 for traveling, which is ridiculous. I hope that gets sorted out. I'm much more aligned with how Jay views it. I feel for the club. I feel for the supporters. I don't think they should be penalized that harshly, at least, on terms of paying player wages, paying for away matches. So I hope that gets sorted out and they get a bigger purse for the away matches. But as for this match at home, I think that they're going to be up and ready to play. I think Tuchel's got a really good team going. I think having Havertz up front has been a really good decision to put Lukaku on the bench. I think he, similar to Arteta in terms of getting the toxicity out of the team, Tuchel has a very firm hand as far as it goes on who's performing for the team, who's putting the club above themselves. And I think that's showing on the pitch. And I think everybody that he puts on the field is going to be the type of person that wants to do their best and wants to show their best in front of the fans that are there. So I think they'll get a pretty easy 2-0 win.
And Jay, if you were Man United and you've seen what was going on at Chelsea, you'd be straight on the phone to Thomas Tuchel going, what can we pay for you to come here and take over this team? Because you're just going to get stripped bare if you stay there. We need a new manager in the summer. Shouldn't Man U be making moves for a manager that can take a really difficult culture and turn it into something that can win a Champions League?
Well, Drew made a good point there about getting toxicity out of the club. You've got to remember, Tuchel's managed PSG. And it doesn't matter who the manager of PSG is. It's just ego. The whole team's ego. Neymar, Messi don't run. They just refuse to run. And that's why they'll never win the Champions League. You're 2 players short, essentially. It's why United struggle now with Ronaldo, because he won't run. years ago, you could have a luxury player who maybe didn't work as hard, like an Ozil or someone like that. You can't get away with that anymore because everyone puts so much work ethic in. Yeah, it's a shout, mate. Tuchel plays the right way. I think he handles himself brilliantly. Every time he's been questioned about this Abramovich thing, I think he's dealt with it, boss, because at the end of the day, he's there to manage a football team, not talk about world politics. So I think he's handled it really well myself. I think United are hell-bent on getting Ten Hag, aren't they? Which is what I go for. He works with youth and spend money. He plays brilliant football, so he'd always be my number one choice if I was United. But yeah, hopefully they haven't heard you and don't go for Tuchel.
Tuned into us.
Well, I don't think so, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth them looking at if the opportunity is there.
And what about the match? What score are you going for the match, Jay?
It could go either way, that, because yeah, the players might be G'd. I'll go for 1-1 because I think Newcastle's form's really good and it's too uncertain at Chelsea, so 1-1 draw.
I'm going to switch on to the relegation fight because it's got Everton in it and it's hilarious.
With a possible point deduction coming up as well.
Well, they're sitting 17th. They've lost 3 in a row. And they've got Wolves. Everton. Wolves have lost 3 in a row, but they've just won the last one, haven't they? They just sort of sorted themselves out. So I really want them to lose, Chedu. I'm assuming you're the same. I can see the excitement on your face just thinking about Everton going down.
I don't even have to talk much about why I think Wolves are going to destroy Everton. I think you look at both teams, and the answer is right in front of you. I am so happy that Everton are on the verge of getting thrown out and hopefully never coming back up. I cannot wait to see Richarlison play in the Championship, especially after he said that he's not leaving Everton until they win the Champions League. So, it really, really excites me.
You sure he didn't mean Championship?
Did you see that?
No, he said that. He said those words.
I don't know. He's not for Oliver.
I don't know what that guy does on his spare time, because if he genuinely thinks he's ever going to win the Champions League with Everton, I hope he's willing to live up until he's 600 years old, around that. But I think it's going to be an easy win for Wolves. I'm even going to say that it's going to be 4-0. I just don't. I look at this Everton team and it makes me want to laugh. It's just. I love how Van de Beek said that he went to Everton and not I think it was Newcastle because he didn't want to be in a relegation battle.
Awkward.
To be you.
They just lost Lucas Dean as well. I know that Mikolenko is a phenomenal signing, but you take away a left back that's been doing so well, probably one of the best left backs in the league. So he meant Championship and extra. He knows that's the only thing he might have a chance to win. So I wouldn't be surprised if he takes back his word. But it's funny. We look back a few years ago. Apparently, Barca wanted him for 100 million, and Everton said no. I don't know which of the two was the most stupid out of that decision. But hey, at the end of the day, Wolves are gonna run riot. I think they have something good going on. I looked at the table just a second ago, and I could have sworn they were like 14th, and they're actually doing really well. So I think it's going to be an easy win for them. I don't see Everton actually doing anything.
Yeah, Wolves are 8th, so they're sitting pretty. 43 points, not going down, whereas Everton 22 points minus 18 goal difference, which is 4 worse than Burnley. Burnley are on minus 14, and they're 1 point behind. So it's really getting tight. And the ones that really need to be worried are Leeds United.
Yeah.
23 points, but a minus 35 goal difference. It's pretty much it's an extra point difference. That's the level of goal difference, isn't it? It's got to click at some point, hasn't it, Drew, for Everton now? Frank Lampard did well at B. That's what everyone says, isn't it?
They will click on League One, but not over here.
Yeah, I am honestly baffled Everton got Lampard. I don't see a single thing on his CV that gives him like an entrance into the doorway for any job of management. He couldn't get Derby up. He failed at Chelsea. You could say he made good signings, but give me 200 million to work with, I can pick the best players in Europe. Yeah. So their defense was absolutely awful at Chelsea under him. So I honestly don't see how he got the job or what Everton were thinking at this point of the season. But that being said, they have had a decent at-home performance under Lampard. I think that speaks more to the Everton faithful than his capabilities as a manager. But I still don't see them beating Wolves at this point. I think Wolves have Europe on the cards, whether that's Europa League or the European Conference. I think either of those would be a good step for them as a club. So as long as those are there to fight for, they're going to show up. And I think that Everton just won't be able to, topple that last domino for them in this match. But to be fair, they have 3 games in hand. So as much as everyone's piling the pressure on them to go down, I think as you said, Leeds are probably the one that should be more worried than Everton. But I'll go for a 1-0 Wolves win.
And one thing that I guess we haven't talked about, Jay, is there's some talk that that Everton's financial regulations are about to breach financial fair play profit rules, which could result in a 10-point deduction.
From what I've heard,
goodbye 3 games in hand.
Yeah, from what I've heard, though, that sanction won't come into play till next season. So even if it does,
you might be right.
Yeah, no.
But that's gonna be even funnier. They're gonna start their championship season with minus 10 points.
No, apparently, if there is sanctions, it's not going to be this season anyway. It'll be next season. So that shouldn't have an effect. But Drew just took, you must have read my mind, to be honest, because when I seen Frank Lampard going to Everton, I thought he just spent 250 million at Chelsea and couldn't get them in the top 4, got sacked. So why do you think he's going to be able to come into Everton with players who are nowhere near as good as what are at Chelsea, doesn't have the money that he has at Chelsea, and he's going to do anything good? It baffled me. Thought it was a crazy appointment, to be honest. I really did. I don't know what he's done to be able to get that job. But the mad thing is, this week, Leeds have been terrible. But this week, they're playing a team where they might actually be able to win because they're playing Norwich at home. So if there is a game that Leeds could potentially win, it's probably that. And then that puts more pressure on Everton. And if I'm right, Burnley have got Brentford. But Brentford have obviously just won the first game in, I don't know how long. But Burnley have been picking up points. So for the bottom of the table, this is probably going to be one of the most interesting weekends you're going to get. Because Leeds, if they beat Norwich, would be on 26 points, which is 4 above Everton. If Everton don't win, Wolves and Burnley win, Everton are in the bottom 3. And Burnley are playing Brentford. So there's no real good scenario out of that for Everton, because if Brentford win, they're on 30 points. It takes them sort of away from it. But then if Burnley win, Everton are in the bottom 3. So it's a massive weekend for Everton, to be honest. They have to win Wolves.
All right, so let's do a quick weekend maths, because like you said, it's an important weekend for the relegation.
Huge.
So Leeds Norwich, what do you think the score's going to be, Jay?
See, the thing is, Leeds have been that bad. It's hard to say. They could get a result. Friggin' hell.
To be fair, so have Norwich.
I know, but they've got picked up the odd points under Dean Smith, haven't they? They've been a bit better.
They've lost 5 in a row.
Do you know what? I'll go for Leeds because they're at home, sod it, and it'll make it more interesting. I'll go. There's no way they're not conceding though, so 3-2 Leeds.
Everton Wolves?
2-0 Wolves.
And then Brentford, Burnley. Brentford are at home. And they've got Ivan Toney back, which obviously made a huge difference as they suddenly went on a massive win. But Burnley lost the last two, drew one, won the last two. They are playing well.
It's a hard one to call Brentford and Brentford Burnley, because Eriksen made a big difference when he played last week. Might have to go for a draw on that, you know. Call it. I don't want to say 0-0 or 1-1. Suppose it doesn't really matter.
Well, they don't score or concede much, do they? But if they go on one, Brentford.
Yeah, call it 1-1.
So Burnley would be on 22, minus 14 goal difference. Everton would be on 22, minus 20 goal difference. Leeds would be on 26. Brentford would be on 28. So Leeds would Everton would have to win at least one or two of their games in hand to not be pulled into the relegation fight. I mean, with what Jay said, Drew, Chedu, do you see any major differences in these scores in Leeds and the Leeds, Norwich, and Brentford, Burnley matches? Drew, I'll go with you first. Oh, Chedu.
No, Drew can go first. Drew can go first.
Go on, Drew. Oh, no, Drew seems to have frozen. I don't know if
He is moving. His eyes are moving.
There we go.
But I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Leeds, Norwich. And,
Leeds, Norwich. I really want to support Jesse March for Leeds, but I really think it's going to be a draw. I think it will be a 0-0 draw, so I'll go with that. But I really want Jesse March to do well with Leeds, and we'll see what happens there.
Brentford, Burnley.
I think 1-1. I think Everton will be the only one dropping all the points this weekend.
And then for you, Chedu.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jesse Marsh got sacked from Leipzig not even half a season in, right? I think I'm right on saying that. And he has a lot to prove. Yeah, especially with a Leeds team that just haven't been good at all recently. And I think it's gonna go out there and it's gonna prove people wrong. I know it's Norwich, but if you want to prove that, you're a good manager, you have to at least get past Norwich. So I think it's gonna be barely. I think it's gonna be 1-0. And then as for Brentford and Burnley, I think 1-1 as well. Ivan Toney is back, and that's just that's the best kind of news that a Brentford fan can have is that their best player is back.
Especially with Eriksen's delivery and service to Toney now makes a big difference. Maybe even edge towards Brentford getting the win actually, but I'll stick to what I said.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because Brentford are dragged into it now, so you'd be thinking they could take the foot off the gas a little bit, but I think they've done that a bit too much, and now they're suddenly going to have to kick back on. But I think you said it, or Matty might have said it last week. Feels like Brentford, as much as they've gone off the rails a little bit, will pull it back once Ivan Toney comes back, and suddenly that confidence that they can score goals comes back to them. But looking at what we've said, nobody thinks this is going to be a good weekend for Everton. You know, everyone around them is either going to pick up a draw or a point or anything like that. It's just going to increase the pressure on Frankie Lampard, who seems to should have just stuck with Rafa and then have probably done a little bit better. I don't know why a proven Premier League and European managers do better than Frank Lampard, but it's just me. Okay, so final one on the top four before we move on to the Liverpool match is we've got Man United against Spurs. Both near each other, 47, 45 points. Both wildly inconsistent. It's either going to be a classic or it's going to be horrible, isn't it, Jay?
Yeah, it's either going to be like 0-0 or like a 4-1, 3-1. I fancy Spurs to do them 3-1.
Straight.
I can see that. I can see that.
I really do, mate. I just think the way they played last week, I know it was only Everton, but they looked really good against them. I know it was only Everton and they are struggling. And Everton actually started the game well. I thought they started all right. But once the first goal went in, that was it. Then floodgates opened. So I fancy Spurs and United with that poor against City. Like, yeah, I fancy Spurs to do them.
It's never a good sign, Drew, is it, when a player refuses to play for you? You know, we've seen it with Man City when Tevez refused to play for them and he disappeared to Argentina for ages. And then there's rumours that Ronaldo's refused to play for Man U. I mean, it can't be a good feeling in the dressing room to have a player that is so disappointed in what everyone's doing there that he refuses to play. How do you think they're feeling in that United dressing room at the moment?
I think it was similar situation to how Jay described PSG's locker room. I think you just have a bunch of huge egos in the Man U dressing room. Like, it doesn't look like a single player really cares about the club or the badge. It certainly doesn't show when they step on the pitch. The fact that no one in that club can get it together and really lead by example just, speaks volumes. Like, I don't even need to say anything. It's pathetic. They need a huge clear out. I think they need to get rid of every single player that thinks they're bigger than the club and really restart. Like, you need to start looking at this as a long-term thing, not some short-term fix where you can get someone in and, wave a wand for it all to be better. That being said, I hate United, so I'm happy to see them in turmoil. But I think that's it for me. I just really despise clubs who pick players who are just huge egos and think they're bigger than the clubs that they signed for. So that's pretty much, you pick a club like that, they're my least favorite club. So United's there right now, and I think this is the perfect setup for Conte and Spurs to go to United and just slap them. Like, United's going to have all the impetus to come out on the forward foot. And, again, as Jay said before, they got a bunch of passengers in that team who are, not going to show up. And, Spurs have the drive. They have players who will play defense and play as a team. So Conte is going to absolutely destroy them on the counter. And I'm going to go 3-0 Spurs.
Good man.
And because I like to do this to Chedu, you give him a name sometimes and you just let him go. I'm going to give you one player and I'm just going to let you go. And I'm going to say Harry Maguire.
Yeah, it's so laughable looking at how Harry Maguire is the most expensive defender of all time. Looking at how people were comparing him to Van Dijk. Listen, compare him to any defender who actually knows how to play football. I think that's even better. I'm gonna say it. I don't care how many goals he scored. Ronaldo was a horrible signing for United. I think it was such a stupid decision to bring him back. And I think it's what really made the club worse than it was before. And it's like you guys have said, like, the team feels disjointed. It feels like no one really actually wants to play for the team. And I can't think of a player who's actually playing well apart from De Gea, who has to play well or else they lose by 10 goals every game, because with the laughable defense in front of him, it's sad. And
I'm going to say, I don't think De Gea has been as good as everyone's making out, because the amount of times I've seen him parry it into the danger area, like he'll make an occasional save or two, but I don't think he's like people saying he's better than Alisson and stuff. I think
no way he's the best goalkeeper right now, but we have to give him props because essentially playing with no defenders in the back, he's done quite well to stop other teams scoring 6 or 7 times every single game. And that's their saving grace right there. It's the fact that they have a competent goalkeeper, and that's it. Because defense, Harry Maguire and Varane just not good at all. I'm sorry, but has anyone really seen the fact that Varane is not a good defender unless he has Ramos beside him? Like, we look at the Champions League run against Man City, where he had to play with Militao next to him because Ramos was out. What did he do? Give Man City goals. Look at what he's doing at Manchester United. Yes, he has Maguire aside of him, but he's not doing anything. Look at the game the other day where Maguire and Varane looked like they were playing against United the entire game. And then Luke Shaw had one good season, and that's it. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is... You can tell how good he is by the fact that he wants to change to DR Congo. He doesn't believe he has what it takes to be in England. And then midfield, we don't even have to talk about it. Bruno Fernandes just hasn't been in the form that he was last season. Rashford just looks defeated. He looks like
needs to move.
Football anymore. And the only other player that was any decent in that team was a player that I'm not gonna name because of what he did not that long ago that made him get sacked from the team. Apart from that, United it's just nothing. I don't know. I don't understand how they're that far up on the table. And yes, Spurs are not the greatest team. They've even made Conte double think about his own abilities as a manager. But something that Spurs has that they don't is the fact that Spurs are actually a team with togetherness, with a good manager that on their day they can do damage. And as you guys have said before, they want to play as a team, unlike United, and that's what's going to give them the win at the end of the day. I just don't see United doing anything at all, and we're going to say 3-0 win to Spurs as well because United are kind of hopeless right now. And the only response to how to fix United is sell everyone, change managers, start over. That's the only way you're actually going to do something with that team.
Do you know the irony? The only player who actually wants to play for them, they won't play, is Jesse Lingard.
Yep.
He's the only player who actually wants to play for them and they won't give him a game.
I remember when they gave him an $100,000 a week contract, I think when he was 23, like it was one of the highest things for a player that never started. And I was like, well, he's never going to want to leave, is he? Because he's rubbish and he's getting 100K a week or 120K a week, I think it was.
Their wage structure is abysmal.
Yeah, the teenagers who haven't played a pro game are millionaires, and you wonder why they don't make it. You know, Callum Hudson-Odoi, everyone raving about him, he's done nothing. Absolutely nothing. He'll be too far before you know it.
People see in Callum Hudson-Odoi, I just don't see it. I don't see why he's as hyped as he is right now and why he earns as much as he does.
He's not the only one. It was probably not fair to sound him out, to be fair, but the amount of young players you're there. What, sorry?
Look at what Sancho's on. He's on an extraordinary amount of money for playing in the German league, which, you know, yes, he played well in the German league, but he wasn't starting every week for Dortmund.
Do you know what, though, James? I don't think his problems at United are him. I think it's that team. I think it's hard to look good in that team right now, especially when, like what we said, you've got passengers. Pogba doesn't run, Ronaldo doesn't run, Wan-Bissaka's crap, Harry Maguire's crap. Bruno runs around everywhere, but his attitude is disgusting.
That's not like how toxic the United team isn't a secret. Everybody's aware of it. But you also know you're going to get paid more than anywhere else if you go there.
Do you know what's crazy?
Took the money option.
They all have a go with Fred, and he's the only one who actually puts a shift in. But they all hate him. He's the only lad who actually runs around and gets a foot in. And don't get me wrong, he's not blessed with great skill. But he's the only one who actually gives it a go. And he seems to get the brunt of it.
You hit the nail on the head for me, Jay. Like the lack of support in the squad and from the fans is just insane. Like, how can you perform well when every mistake you make is just criticized? You have the body language on everyone in the pitch. When you mess up a pass, Bruno Fernandes, Ronaldo are just like throwing their hands up. And it's like any young player seeing that, it's like, good God, I have to be perfect to, you know, get in the squad. And even still, I'm probably going to get a bollocks from someone. So I don't I would not like. I don't know how any young player should steer clear of United until they sort out that situation, because if you look at it, it's a death sentence for anyone's career who has gone there in the last few years.
And I mean,
Bruno Fernandes is maybe the one that says no, but you can tell like that was maybe 1-2 seasons. I think it's just a quick point on David De Gea. He was like their player of the season for 3 seasons before Fernandes came in. Like, your goalkeeper's been your best player for 4 out of the last 5 years. Like, Jesus, get it together.
Yeah, that speaks volumes on its own. The fact that for so many seasons your best player has been someone that does the average job of any goalkeeper there is. And
he's still getting flack too. Like, the club's still like a split. Like, it's just a toxic. Like, it's terrible. Well, I mean, it's hilarious for Liverpool supporters, but I can't imagine what it's like as a United fan.
And it talks a lot about recruitment, because we look over a Liverpool and the Klopp. It's like what Klopp said, that he wouldn't take someone that's a little bit better at kicking a football if he's a complete asshole. And it came out also as well a while ago that when Wijnaldum was preparing to join Liverpool, Klopp invited him to his home, but not to talk about anything about football. He just wanted to talk about their personal lives, because in a team, I think what matters most is the attitude of the players over their actual talent. And it's like Jay said, like, you can have someone like Ronaldo in your team who's a known winner, a phenomenal player who's been blessed with the ability to play the game really, really well. And then Fred. Which one of the two is a better player for United right now? The one that actually has the attitude like he wants to add something to the team, not the superstar player who just sits on top, who just sits at the top of the pitch waiting for the ball to roll to him to be able to score. And that's where the problem lies in United. They don't have players who actually want to win. They just want to sit there and get their money. And that's the only fault goes to the owners and to the staff themselves for allowing them to have that much money for nothing. And it's extremely laughable and sad at the same time. As a Liverpool fan, of course, it's funny to see United be trash. But at the same time, it's extremely sad seeing how players are wasting their careers for a few more pounds and doing absolutely nothing about it. And the club doesn't want to do anything about it either. And it's just horrible for United, and they just have to start over.
It's very short-sighted for me as well, because they'll probably get more in endorsements if they're playing in a team, they're playing well, they're achieving things. But we need to move on, because we need to move on to Liverpool, because we're running low on time, and there's 2 Liverpool games this week, so we're going to play catch-up week this week. First game is tomorrow at 12, which is Liverpool-Brighton. Now, Jay, this sounds weird to say, but we've been carried by our defence for the last couple of games, really, haven't we? Despite the fact we've got the top 3 scorers in the Premier League. Is it about time our attackers get back in control in the game?
I don't know. I feel like because we got beat by Inter, a lot of people overreacted and forgot we hit the post 3 times. Centimetre either side, below, you win the game 3-1. So I think people have been a little bit overreacting about that. The thing about Brighton is they probably should have beat us at Anfield. We were 2-0 up, and Trossard, I think, made it 3-2, but it was offside. But they actually probably deserved to win anyway. I thought they were much better than us. But they're on a sticky patch at the minute, aren't they, Brighton? So I do fancy us to do them tomorrow.
And what score are you going for tomorrow?
3-0.
Oof, positive.
Little fun fact to throw out for those who actually haven't realized: the last 3 games, Brighton have been undefeated against us. We haven't managed to beat them in the last 3 games, and it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, a little bogey.
I like how they play football, and they gave Newcastle a real game. We were on absolute peak form as well, aren't they? How do you beat this Brighton team then, Chedu? What do you think Liverpool need to do?
There's only one answer in my head as to what Liverpool need to do, and a lot of people were.
It's Oxlade-Chamberlain, isn't it? It's definitely Oxlade-Chamberlain.
If I myself had the money, I would walk over to John Henry's house and just drop a bag of money on his front step and just say, delete his contract, please. But no, the one thing that they actually have to do is bench Salah. He hasn't been as good this AFCON. And I think losing the AFCON has really taken a toll on him. And not only that, the man's a human. We start him every single game. Eventually, he's going to start shooting blanks, and that's what he's been doing recently.
We rested him before Inter.
He needs. I think he needs a rest here too. I don't. If we're really not doing well in the game, maybe put him on. But I think right now the best thing for him is to have some rest. And Liverpool has always worked as a team that mostly it's about merit. It's about if you're playing well, you're gonna keep playing, of course, without a few exceptions. And it goes to, I feel like Salah gets benched, he's gonna get the drive to actually do even better, so that doesn't happen again. And I think the key to winning the game is benching Salah. Let him get the rest that he needs. If you ask me right now what my starting attackers would be, funny enough, I would say Diaz, Jota, Minamino. Minamino. I know I've said a lot that Minamino needs to go, but I think he deserves a chance. We look at what he's been. It's like he's finally getting his footing around the club right now. And yes, I am dropping the top scorer. Yes. Okay, to go on that point, since the AFCON returned, how prolific has he been compared to before the AFCON? Before AFCON, it's not been the same. It feels like he's not in the right mindset since losing, after being so close to his first, and I'll say it, probably only chance at an international trophy. And yes, he's the top goal scorer and the second assister, but I think that's exactly what he needs. And I have enough.
Let me put it this way, just as a different frame of the question. And you may be right that he needs a rest, but if he rests him now, does it look like it's a political move because of the contract talks that happened at this weekend, and therefore it's Klopp using a power move to push Salah into signing a contract, and he's more likely to push him out the door?
Listen, it definitely looks that way if it does happen right now. With, of course, quite unfortunate that the news about Salah just came out right now, because really any move against Salah is just going to reflect on a bad way. But realistically, in my eyes, team-wise, the best thing to do is to drop him. But as you said, with everything that's going on with his contract, it's just going to have a bad effect on him and his agent. We all know that his agent isn't the best person in the entire world. And it's really tough to actually do something with that right now. I think at this point, it's either FSG have to cave in and give him what he wants, or he walks. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground here where they're both going to be happy with the decision. And it's a really tough one. Because
you got Arsenal on Wednesday.
Yeah.
As well. Arsenal is going to be a big game.
I think the best way to put it up to put it to Salah and his agent is to just go in like, listen, it's nothing against you. We just have Arsenal in a few days, so we need you to be fit for that game. So we're gonna bench you for this one. But it's extremely tricky. On me saying that Minamino should start, I think he's deserved the right to have a chance. This has been by far his best. He's
got 9 goals this season. He's not exactly not played his part, has he?
Exactly, and he deserves. I think he deserves. It was really unfortunate not to see him start in the Carabao Cup final, but let's be honest, that was never going to happen. But I think he deserves a chance. I mean, he's been way better now than he was before, and I wouldn't really be surprised if he actually does get that chance. And people can say whatever they want about Minamino, but Messi and Ronaldo haven't. And that's win 2 league titles in one season. So take that. I'm gonna say at the end of the day, 2-0 win for Liverpool.
So Drew, are you dropping Salah?
I hear what Chedu's saying about resting players. I was calling that for last week. I felt that Salah and Mane both needed a rest, but I think Jay hit the nail on the head with millimeter on either side of the post. Salah scores 2, and it looks, completely different. He did get a bit of a rest. I think he got pulled off early on the last weekend, and this I'd go with resting Mane actually, because I think every Liverpool player has a go at Arsenal in recent years, but I'd like to give Mane that rest and that kick up the butt and start Jota and Diaz against Brighton, and I think Salah has a point to prove. I think it's the wrong time to drop him for this game, especially after what's come out, and after his 2 post shots against Inter. I think he's due for a goal fest, and I'm just gonna put that out there because tomorrow's game is at 4:30 for me in the morning in LA, and God, I hate waking up for those games, especially there's a curse. Not this year, so not touch wood that long continues, but previous years it'd be like 0-0 every time I woke up at 4:30 for a match. But this, I'm going opposite. I'm going 4-0 Liverpool. Let's just destroy Brighton and set up a really good vibe for the Arsenal match midweek.
I think the earliest I've had to wake up for a game was like 7:30, and that was the game where we won 7-0 against Crystal Palace. I remember falling asleep, winning 1-0, and waking up like 20 minutes later, and it's like 4-0, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?" For those of you who live in the UK, you really don't know the struggle that is living on this side of the world, having to wake up so early for games. But hey, it's completely.
I'll have you know that when the Japan World Cup was on, I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning in the pub for 6. Absolutely hammered by 9.
James, talk to me when you've had 3 weekends in a row of 4:30 for Liverpool, and that happens every year. But I choose it, and there's actually quite an interesting vibe when the pub's open at that time. So, so all for it. I'm sure Liverpool supporters all over the world don't mind what time the game is on. They'll get up for it, support the team.
I mean, you should just move to England, really, shouldn't you? It solves the problem, doesn't it?
That's the long term. That's the long term future goals. Your lips to God's ears, James.
Arsenal, it's the bigger game, isn't it, of the two, the Brighton and the Arsenal game. The Arsenal one's it's going to be a tough one, isn't it, Jay?
On paper, it's the more important game, but it's not. Both games were 3 points. You've got to win both. That's why you don't. No disrespect to Chedu, but that's not why you throw Minamino in, because you think Brighton's a lesser team or whatever. Realistically, to win the league, we're probably going to have to win every single game. Maybe one that we can't. You don't drop players because you think a team's a bit less off. If anything, I'd play Salah for him to give us the reaction of, this is why you need to give me this contract, because I'm going to go out there and score 2-3 goals. That's why I want the money I'm asking for, or whatever it is he's asking for. So there's no way I'd be dropping Salah. If anything, he's going to be able to prove why he's asking for what he's asking for. So hopefully.
But to respond to that, I'm pretty sure FSG already know what Salah can do, and it's not about whether he deserves it or not. It's just the fact that FSG don't believe in paying that much money, and that's really what's hurting here.
Maybe, but if that's the case, what's the point in playing him again? If we know he's not going to accept the contract on the table and we're not going to give him a better offer, well, we may as well just cut ties now then.
Maybe just so that the more he plays, the more he'll realize that he doesn't really want to leave Liverpool, essentially pushing him to signing the contract that he has on table right now.
I think it's his agent. Personally,
It
I
is
don't
the
think he's
agent.
gonna
It
get
is
his contract
100% the
anywhere else.
agent.
his agent's trying to do like a Mina Raiola, or however you pronounce his name. You know, one of them super agents who does the talking for the player rather than letting the player speak. I think the way FSG are looking at it is who's going to give him that money. Barcelona are in no position to do it. Real Madrid want Mbappe and Haaland. Your only other options, PSG. Do you want to go and play in France? Salah doesn't strike me as a player who wants to go and play in France with egos as well. He's not an egotistical man from what you gauge from his personality. So I think that's what FSG's hand is well, where are you going then? But you know, I think you just need to bite the bullet and give him what he wants, because his numbers for us have been brilliant. He's doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, looks after himself ridiculous. He's not going to start declining in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's a no-brainer to give him what he wants in my book, but we'll have to obviously just see what happens. It doesn't look good though.
Is it, Chedu? Is it a little bit that people just don't have respect for an African player like they do a European player? You know, Mbappe does a step over and scores an offside goal, and the whole world goes crazy. Salah runs past the entire Man City defence, and everyone goes crazy for a day in England, and then it's just forgotten about. Is there a little bit of classism, you know, creeping in, saying you shouldn't pay an Egyptian, an African footballer this, you need a bigger brand player?
There's a lot going into that, and that definitely is one of the things. Whether people want to admit it or not, it definitely has something to do with that, even a little bit. On the other hand, of course, age has to do something with it. People look at him and say, "Oh, how old is he? Is he 30 now?
29.
29. He's 29." They say, "Oh, he's almost 30. He's not going to be that good in 2 years, 3 years," which is not the truth, but that's what they think when they look at his age. And you know, then the example you gave, Mbappe, who's so young. Whenever Mbappe does something, because he's that young, they just blow it up out of proportion. Whether then they look at Salah, who's almost 30. Doesn't matter that much. And not only that, of course, the bias against Liverpool has a lot to do with that as well, where any other fan in the world that isn't a Liverpool fan is going to be against Liverpool. So any good that comes out of the team, you'll never hear about it from any other fan. And that's just the sad truth for us. But at the end of the day, there's really a lot that goes into that, and it goes without saying. I'll say it as many times as I have to, and it's the fact that Mo Salah has been one of, if not the most disrespected player ever since he joined Liverpool. It feels like sometimes even our own fans don't give him the credit that he deserves. He's been such an amazing player, and if he keeps the form that he's had this season up, and we win, let's say, the Champions League or the Premier League, I think it's an easy shout for him to win the Ballon d'Or. But because he plays for Liverpool and because he's Egyptian, you're not going to hear much about it.
I think it's fair. And Drew, bringing it back to sort of the Arsenal game, we're getting into that point now where I think it's 3 days. We've got a game pretty much 3 days until the end of the season. If we were to get, you know, final of the FA Cup, final of the Champions League, late push to the league, it is now becoming one of those where a cup final a week almost, isn't it? And they've got to get into that hype, and noise like contracts and stuff like that can't be good for the team. It's got to be focus stations now, surely.
I honestly don't think it affects the inside of the dressing room as much as the outside world thinks. I think it's one of those things that gets blasted on the media, but I don't see Liverpool players having that big ego where they're going to bring that into the dressing room. I think Klopp's one of the best professionals in football, and he'll handle it. It's one of those situations where it's probably taking our attention away from it more so than theirs. So I'm not too worried about it. They're all professionals. They'll do the job on the pitch. They won't add that drama to the dressing room. I think anything outside of that's really, not worth putting too much weight on, because as we've seen, like, this whole contract thing has been going on throughout the year, and how have Liverpool been doing? They've been doing amazing. This is just the next, little additive to it. But I think that's more media than anything. But as for Arsenal, as I said earlier in the stream, I hate Arsenal. I have way too many Arsenal friends. So every time we beat them, it's a glorious afternoon of silence from my phone without my Arsenal friends texting me. So I'm hoping we go to the Emirates again. Jota scores another 2, and we walk out of there with 3 points, with that being the easiest match of the week.
With Arsenal, we either absolutely destroy them or it's a difficult game. That's normally how it goes from memory.
But they also haven't done well against big teams. Like, that was something I forgot to say with Newcastle. Newcastle have been on a run with, good games, so they haven't played anybody in the top 4, top 6. And Arsenal similar. They've been doing well putting together performances against mid-table teams, but every time they come up against a top team this year, they get slapped. So, let's give them another smack and send them on their way to 4th place, where they, we're
top 4 trophy. Top 4 trophy. Let's not forget, it's a trophy for Arsenal. That and the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to call it a day there because we've been on about an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you very much to Chedu, Jay, and Drew for joining us today. This has been the LFC Transfer Room Premier League room, where we've sort of reviewed, and we will go through who's done the best on the score predictions next week. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, the LFC Transfer Room this is YouTube, Twitter. Account is back online, so make sure that you're following on there. I think there's something going on with the Colombian signing for Liverpool from about when we dropped off, so we've got a bit to catch up to do. But thank you very much, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Later, boys.